We all have our own story. Everyone's story is unique in some way, and I will share a significant portion of the last few years of my life with you today. I've come a long way from the person I was 5 or 6 years ago, and I attribute much of this to the formation I received here at St. Thomas Academy. Prior to arriving at St. Thomas, I was struggling to find my way down the right path. I spent a long 8 years at Our Lady of Grace Catholic School in Edina, and I'm surprised I even lasted that long. From kindergarten through 4th grade, I did okay. I stayed out of trouble for the most part and maintained positive relationships with my teachers and friends. Things began to change in 5th grade. I kept good grades, but I struggled to keep my behavior in check. My friends and I were the class clowns, always looking for attention. Everything was a joke to me. As a result, I'd often get in trouble and serve after-school detentions. In 6th grade, my friends and I once left recess and sprinted over the Highway 100 bridge to hang out at Perkins. Before entering the restaurant, we decided to return to recess before any teachers noticed. We sprinted back across the bridge and onto the school soccer field, head on into a well-trained squadron of teachers running around looking for us. Yep, we got snizzed. In 7th grade, I pulled the final straw and had to miss our year-end field trip to the Como Zoo. My friends and I got one final detention, to stay back to clean the middle school hallways. I was warned that I would be on probation for the first semester of 8th grade. My parents had had enough of my antics and decided to cut me off from my friends. Major change was coming, and this is where my St. Thomas journey began. A transfer to St. Thomas for 8th grade made me nervous. Having grown up in a family of 5 boys, and with the knowledge that St. Thomas was an all-boys military school, I knew one thing. By transferring to the school, I would never learn how to talk to girls. And I still haven't learned. I envisioned boot camp where students would run for miles at a time, do hundreds of push-ups without stopping, sprint through obstacle courses, and march to Sergeant Hurt's cadences, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, you can't count to 5. And she's got a head of hair, just like a grizzly bear. On the first day of 8th grade, I was convinced that I did not belong at this school. I was just here so I wouldn't get fined. I walked in late to Mr. Capey's first hour class to find Mr. Capey holding a student in a headlock. He then spent the rest of the hour teaching my history class how to hold someone in a proper headlock. At this point, I was certain that my 5 years at this school would go by slower than a media center computer. At this point, I was certain, only the toughest of the toughest students would survive long enough to graduate from this place. Luckily, I survived until lunchtime, where I sat down next to none other than good old Alex Hallman. And immediately I could tell, this guy runs the middle school. With a Subway sandwich stuffed in his mouth, he greeted me with a typical Hallman greeting. Hey man, I'm Alex Hallman. Welcome to St. Thomas. He then introduced me to a kid named Woody, and a juicy ginger named Newell, and a few of his other friends, and I was quickly feeling welcomed. 8th grade was an up and down year in which my behavior began to slowly improve. When it was time to move on from middle school, I was ready to take high school by storm and start writing my own story. From the start of my freshman year, I was making good grades, and it seemed that I was well on my way to a memorable 4 years at St. Thomas. However, my character and my work ethic still needed improvement if I was going to succeed at this school. Of course, I had to learn a few things along the way that would ultimately benefit me in the long run. For example, on the first day of gym class freshman year, my assumptions that this school would push me to work my hardest were confirmed. After changing into our gym uniforms, my gym class walked outside to meet up with Mr. McCarthy on the practice football field. His instructions for our conditioning day went something like this. Okay, you jackrabbits. Start here, run around that tree over there, around the goalpost, around the water tower, around the Super America, all the way around McDonald's, through the forest, up that hill, touch the shed, and come back to me. Go. We would do variations of this on most conditioning days throughout the rest of the year. Mr. McCarthy held us to a high standard and pushed us to get out of our comfort zone and work our hardest. This set the stage for a freshman year where I grew dramatically as a student, but I was still incomplete as a person. Early in my freshman year, I realized that my antics would not be tolerated in high school. I liked to have a little too much fun in my freshman leadership class with Sergeant Major, or, as he called himself, Sergeant Major Miles McSpoogly Boogly Skip to my Lugity Taco Nacho Frito Cheeto Tostito Burrito MacDowell. Often when Sergeant Major turned his back, I would try to do something funny to get other students to laugh. But he'd always find a way to catch me in the act. He'd say, "Wow, Harvey, wow. You play too much. Bam! Get out my class. Hasta la vista. Bye-bye." After several rounds of demerits, some of the childish things I was able to get away with in elementary school finally stopped. Wearing a military uniform to school every day has helped teach me organization and attention to detail. One day near the beginning of school sophomore year, I came to school with my uniform looking less than presentable. I walked into my leadership class and Chief Preblage slowly looked up from his computer. He said something like, "Wow, Harvey, you look like you just survived a tornado." "Your hair looks like a haystack. Your shirt is dirty and wrinkled. Your pants are wrinkled. Your shoes aren't shined. Your breath are crooked. You aren't wearing a belt. You didn't shave. Your tie is backwards. You're a mess." It is moments like this where I appreciate the high standard of this school. A turning point for me was my sophomore spring break mission trip to an orphanage in Honduras. Accompanying me were fellow classmates Hugh Burke, Gus Forseth, Jake Hardy, Mac Brown, and Brady Happy. This trip was eye-opening. We spent a week with other kids who were much less fortunate than us. Many of the children had experienced neglect, abuse, gang violence, and hunger before being adopted into the NPH family, where they were truly happy. I began to recognize all the ways I've been blessed, particularly by my education at STA. I knew that it was about time I grew up and started acting like a man, to stop making a joke out of everything, and to appreciate the opportunity I had been given to attend this school. On this trip, I also learned something very enlightening about my future. One night, Brady fell asleep before the rest of us, and at around midnight, he rolled out of his bed, stood up, and began sleepwalking. He proceeded to rant at us as we watched him, dying of laughter. He proclaimed, "Yeah, you guys are all going to be working for me one day. Yeah, and you're going to be begging me, 'Brady, please don't fire me.' And I'll respond, 'Sorry guys, you're all fired.' So Brady, when I'm working for you, please don't fire me." In the end, the phrase, "Enter as boys, leave as men," perfectly summarizes my journey here. I came to this school as a kid who needed to find his way, and I found my way. This journey toward character has not been without a few momentary lapses in good judgment, but through the support of my family, friends, and teachers, and my experiences in various sports and activities, St. Thomas Academy has helped prepare me not only for success in college, but for success in life. This school has formed me in ways I never would have imagined, and I can't wait to see what my future holds. Thank you.